Hi, welcome to this week's video. So I'm going to be sharing with you one of the reading challenges I have for this year. It is a horror-based reading challenge that I have on Storygraph, which I'll link in my description below if you want to look at or participate in that challenge. But yeah, it's a horror one. But I kind of made it with the intention for horror, but really it's just for any story or book that has horror elements to it. So it doesn't necessarily have to be like horror as the focus, just like maybe some horror elements into it. So yeah, I'm doing a reading challenge. I just named it Explore, what did I call it? Explore the horror, supernatural, paranormal, and spooky. I really didn't know what to call it, so I kind of just called it that because, like I said, it's not really like, it is focused on horror, but not strictly focused on horror, if that makes sense. And I'm just going to be like going over the books I picked for the prompts because I made 13 prompts, so roughly I would be reading like 13 books depending if I read more than that. Also, the books that I am going to be picking, I would say about most of them are ones that I didn't really read, like the description and stuff like that. I did read the description, but I kind of glanced over it really quickly. And if the description fit a certain prompt or gave something that I felt like would fit a certain prompt, then I just put it in the prompt. So the books that I picked for these prompts are not set in stone. They're just like kind of like placeholders in a way. If I get to a book and then kind of figure out that it's not really something that I want to read, then I might just like switch it out for something else, or you know what I mean. I'm just gonna do that type of thing. The goal is for me to read like 13 books. I'm just gonna share the prompts and the books that I chose for it. The prompts are kind of look at a different aspect of horror is what I probably would say. So the first prompt is from book to film, and this one is basically just read a book that a film was based off. And this one was the most easiest to pick from because a lot of the horror movies that are well known, ones that were based off books, so it was easy to find these ones. And I did add 8 books to this one. So the books that I added was Dracula, It, Rosemary's Baby, I Am Legend, Rain, Interview with the Vampire, The Shining, and The Haunting of Hill House. And for this prompt, I think I'm probably going to read The Rain just because that one I was already reading to begin with, and I'm like, I don't know, I don't remember where I left off. I think it was like halfway there. This one I am going to be reading for sure. A backup that I'm going to do is probably read The Shining just because that was something that I've been wanting to read a little bit. So that's my backup plan, but my original is going to be The Rain for this one. So the second prompt is in the afterlife, and this one is read a book that involves ghosts and the paranormal, or a book that explores the afterlife in some way. I added 7 books to this one, and they are Ghost Girl, Wuthering Heights, Return of the Screw, Spooky Little Girl, and Only Good Indians. And this one, I wasn't really sure which one I want to do. This one I'm probably going to do The Only Good Indians as my main one. Just because, again, this is another book that I was meaning to get to. But a backup is Wuthering Heights. If I do this one, it will be a reread because I already read it. And this one I chose as a backup just because I already have Wuthering Heights in my book collection. So that would be like the backup for this one. The prompt for number 3 is Creatures Incoming, which is read a book about a creature or creatures depending on the outcome that are man-made or a natural occurrence. So they really like give like a specific creature. It could be any type of creature really. The 6 books that I added were Into the Drowning Deep, The Mist, The Fisherman, Frankenstein, and The Hatching. Automatically I already knew what book I was gonna do for this prompt, and it was gonna be Frankenstein. Again, it's just because I'm already currently reading it and I'm like halfway through it. So I decided just to put it for this one since I am already reading it. The second one that I wanted to do was The Mist by Stephen King. So yeah, that is the books for number 3. Okay, so number 4 is The Undead Walk, and I added 11 books, and this one is basically read a book with zombies, vampires, or any being that has no pulse. Because I don't know if there's like any other being that has no pulse like a zombie or vampire. And this one I think was the hardest for me to find books for, just because I was trying to look for a specific type of zombie or like vampire story, and like I was like, this one I spent a lot of time trying to find books for that were interesting to me. With this particular prompt and like stories that involve zombies and like vampires and other things, it can all take like different outcomes and like different roads to follow for the story. So yeah, I really didn't know which one to follow exactly. Kind of added books that had some glimmer of interest for me, so that's kind of what I did. So like that's how come I ended up with 11 books that I added for this prompt were World War Z, Durst #1, The Last Vampire, The Passage, Feed, Carmilla, Seize the Night, This Is Not a Test, The Penguin Book of Vampire Stories, and The Reapers Are the Angels. So for this one, I think for sure I am going to read The Penguin Book of Vampires just because I already have that book. And for the backup, I'm probably going to do The Passage maybe. Either that or I'm going to do the Seize the Night one. Like I said, it's just one of those prompts that I wasn't really sure which way to follow for this. So yeah, so this one I'm going to have like 3 that I can choose from. And then prompt 5 is When Home Isn't Safe. Read a book where characters have to adjust to a new world or an undesired way of life. Or read a domestic horror book. So this one I added 9 books. Basically, with the books I chose, I think I kind of focused on more of the aspect of haunted house basically. With the family moving into a haunted house, I think that's what I focused on when I was gathering all these books. Maybe, like I said, I kind of glanced over stuff. So the books that I added were Home Before Dark, No One Gets Out Alive, Pet Cemetery, A Place for Vanishing, Home is Where the Bodies Are, The Good House, We Have Always Lived in the Castle. So, and for this one, I'm probably going to read, I am not really sure, We Have Always Lived in the Castle or Pet Cemetery. Those ones are probably the ones that are most interesting to me right now. So I'm probably going to go with these 2. And then number 6 is In the Newspaper. Read a book with images, reports, newspaper clippings, journals, etc. So basically a mixed media book. And so the books for this one don't have to be like heavy on like images and like newspaper reports like there are sometimes. It can just have like letters. So this prompt doesn't have to like rely heavily on like images and like excerpts, you know, stuff like that. And for this one I added 10 because this one I had to look up videos so that I knew what books had mixed media in it. And the books that I chose were Chasing the Boogeyman, Episode 13, Horror Store, Asylum, Night Film, Burn the Negative, The Resurrectionist, The Dead House, Dracula, House of Leaves. And from this list, I would say episode 13 and The Resurrectionist are the 2 books that were interesting for me the most. So these ones are the ones that I'm probably going to read for this prompt. Number 7 is Love Like No Other. Read a book that weaves horror and romance together, or a book that centers around a romance but uses horror, melancholic, or somber elements to tell the story. This one, I couldn't really find that many books fit the description for this prompt. So I kind of struggled with this one a little bit. But really, when I was making this prompt, I was thinking about that more like ghost story type of romance. So the books that I chose for this one was The Silent Companions, Rebecca, The Woman in Black, Wuthering Heights, Butcher and the Blackbird, and 13 Tale. I was making this prompt specifically. I had Rebecca and Wuthering Heights in mind, so that was kind of like the writing style I was thinking of when I was making this specific prompt. So basically like a dark romance, like with like that mysterious type of feel to it. So for this one, I'm probably just gonna go with Butcher and the Blackbird. If I don't feel in the mood for that one, I might just go with Wuthering Heights for this one as the backup. So number 8 is One by One, and it's read a book where the characters get picked off one by one and the main character has to figure out what is happening before they get caught. So basically Final Girl type of energy. So this one was also, but this one was kind of hard to put together too, because a lot of the subscriptions didn't really mention the character having to figure out what is happening. But these are the books that I added, which was Final Girls, the Final Girls support group, and then there were none, The Last Final Girl, One by One, and The Ritual. If anything, I'm probably going to read either Final Girls or The Last Final Girl because those 2 are the most interesting. This one, if I have more time, I might add more books to it, just because I feel like for this particular prep I do want to add more books to it. So I might look up more books that fit this prompt and add it later. So that was number 7. No, that was number 8. So that was number 8, and number 9 is Taken Away. Read a book where the main character goes to another world, environment, or realm, either by their own choice, force, or on accident. So I ended up putting 6 books on here, and they're kind of like a hybrid between actual stories that has the character going to another world, or it has the character having to adjust to another world, maybe apocalyptic type of story. So that one I kind of hovered between the two. I tried to, at least. I wasn't really sure what type of mood or like storylines I wanted to follow, so I just kind of like mixed this prompt together a little bit. And the books I chose were John Dies at the End, Wave, The Girl with All the Gifts, The Hollow Places actually, and The Gunslinger. You kind of see what I mean, where I kind of like wasn't really sure which way I wanted this prompt to be, so I just kind of like mixed a whole bunch together. For this one, I was thinking either The Girl with All the Gifts or The Hollow Spaces as the books that I was going to choose. And number 10 is Old One, Old Ways, and read a book that involves old beings that have been around for a long time, or about old rituals passed down that impact the character on a smaller scale or on a more grander scale, so like the world and the universe. And the 10 that I added were The Silence, Bone White, The Wicker Man, The Return of the Sorcerer, Harvest, The Elementals, The Thirst, and The Hellbound Heart. And for this one, I think I'm going to be reading The Silence. And my backup for this one, I was thinking Elementals, so those are the 2 books that I'm probably going to have as placeholders for this particular prompt. And then number 11 is Understanding in Hard Times. Read a book that follows a group of characters that are doing their best when the world around them is falling apart. So this one is a little bit more focused on apocalyptic horror a little bit. It mainly is meant to like encompass like the characters themselves. And I think I added 6 books to this one, and the books that I added was The Stand, Numero D's, Station 11, and The Dog Stars. This one was a little bit hard to find books that had that apocalyptic storyline a little bit. This one for sure, I'm probably going to read The Stand by Stephen King or Station 11 as the books that I'm probably going to choose for this prompt. I would reread the Meryl D's, but like I said, I really am trying not to reread stuff for this prompt. But if I am not really in the mood for the other 2, I might just reread Meryl D's. And we're almost done. It's just 2 more. Number 12 is Horror from a Different Light. Read a book that looks at a trope, character, or a situation from a humorous point of view, so comedy horror basically. The one that I added was John Dies at the End, Practical Demon Keeping, The Zombies of Lake Wanna Be Gone, My Best Friend's Exorcism, Satoko at the End of the World, and Satoko-chan and Satoko-san. So for this one, I'm going to be reading Satoko at the End of the World. I already have the book for this one. And then the like backup for this one is probably going to be My Best Friend's Exorcism, just because that one sounded interesting when I was like reading through the description, so I probably want to read that one. And then for the last one, it's That Time of Year. Read a book where the month or months is October, November, or December. It can be a cozy fall read if you want. So basically it's just any horror book that takes place during like the holiday season basically, or like during Halloween. It can have like a cozy vibe to it where it's just like focused on like doing cozy stuff during October. And the 6 books I added was Hocus Pocus and the all new sequel, The Shining, The October Country, Holidays Are Hell, The Darkest Part of the Forest, and I'll Be Alone for Christmas. So really it's either holiday type of books and like autumn type of books, or it has distant, cold, folklore type of vibe. So those are the books that I'm currently planning to read for that challenge, and I am like really looking forward to it because I've said that I want to read 50 books, and I feel like this challenge is like a good start to doing that. And plus it's horror, so like I've been wanting to read a lot more horror lately. So let me know what type of books you're reading this year, if you're gonna do the challenge, and what books you would do for that challenge if you decide to join. And that is pretty much it. Thank you for watching, like and subscribe, and I hope you have a nice day, morning, and night. Bye. Later.